Welcome back to Neural Abyss, everybody. You ready for another deep dive?
Always.
This one is going to be a fascinating follow-up to our very first episode, actually.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. If you recall, we did that deep dive on the dead internet theory.
Right.
The idea that most of the internet is, well, bots,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll link that in the show notes if you want to go back and check it out as a refresher. But today, oh man, things are about to get way more meta.
Okay. How so?
Because we are diving into AI-generated content on social media.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so buckle up.
And the thing is, this isn't like, back in the day when we were worried about bots just like crawling the web, trying to sell us something. This is AI that's designed to mimic human behavior, emotions,
Right.
to try to really grab your attention, get those likes, and maybe even influence what you're buying.
Yeah, but before we go full AI overlord on this whole thing, let's back up for a second and just remind everybody, like, why should we even care if, some of what we're seeing out there on the internet is, well, a little less than human?
Well, I think it's important to remember every time you open up your social media feed, you're just bombarded with content, right?
Yeah.
All competing for your attention. And a recent report actually suggests that almost half of all web traffic is actually bots.
Wow.
So there's a pretty good chance you're encountering this AI-generated content way more often than you even realize.
So it's less of a ghost town and more of like an AI rave?
Right.
And we're all invited, whether we know it or not.
Exactly.
Okay, but isn't that just the internet being the internet?
You think so, right?
I mean, we've always had spam.
Sure.
We've always had clickbait.
Right. But this is different. This is different because AI changes the game. It's not just about, these really obvious spam accounts that you can spot a mile away. We're talking about sophisticated AI bots that are designed to look and sound and even feel like real people. They're blurring the lines between, authentic human connection and just algorithmic manipulation.
Okay, so that's way creepier than a bot just trying to sell me discount Nikes or
It's
something.
way creepier.
So give me an example. What are these, the paper calls them AI influencers?
Yeah.
What are they putting out there?
Well, one fascinating example is this whole trend of AI-generated content farms.
Okay.
So essentially, you've got these operations that are just churning out low-quality content. But they're not using humans, they're using AI. And the goal is pure profit, often through advertising.
So like clickbait farms, but with bots.
But with bots, exactly.
Oh.
But with a level of sophistication that's pretty unsettling.
Okay.
Take, for example, this account called Inspiring Designs.
Inspiring designs. Okay.
Right. They post about these totally made-up products with AI-generated images. Like they had one, it was a power tool toilet.
What?
A power tool toilet, and they had these AI-written articles to go with it. And, they're totally absurd, but also kind of weirdly compelling,
Wait, so I have so many questions, but I kind of want to see this power tool toilet now.
Right, that's the thing.
What is that even?
The content itself is
Yeah.
meaningless. It's just there to drive traffic through these affiliate links to places like Amazon.
So they're exploiting people's natural curiosity, that thing in us that just makes us want to click on something weird and new,
It's genius,
just to make a quick buck, like a digital shell game,
Right.
where the prize is non-existent.
Exactly. And it's not limited to these weird products. The paper also mentioned this TikTok account. It's called Globetrots. And it just churns out these really bland, generic travel videos.
Oh, like drone shots of like the Eiffel Tower.
Exactly, yeah. With these AI-generated voiceovers.
Oh, I think I've seen those. I've totally seen those. They always pop up on my For You page.
Right.
It's like elevator music for the internet.
Yes.
It's always there. And it's always like kind of soothing in a weird way, but you wouldn't call it good necessarily.
Right, but it's effective.
Right.
Because they're taking publicly available information, right? Satellite imagery, statistics, they add a little AI narration, boom, content that's cheap, easy to produce, and strangely engaging.
So it's like they figured out the algorithm.
They have.
They've cracked the code of
Yeah.
our collective boredom.
Yeah.
And figured out how to make us just passively consume this content, even if it's like, I don't know, kind of meaningless.
Yeah.
But it begs the question, if AI can do this, if it can generate this content, even if it's intentionally bland or bizarre, what does that even say about creativity?
Right.
Like, what does that say about us?
Yeah, and that's the heart of the issue. Because these AI bots aren't just copying what we do, they're engaging in what researchers call computational creativity.
So AI is creating.
Yeah. It's a question that's sparking a lot of debate right now. But what's clear is that these AI systems, they are exhibiting some form of creative output, even if it's driven by algorithms and incentivized by these engagement metrics. And the thing is, as this technology gets more and more advanced, that line between human creativity and what we call this computational creativity is just going to get blurrier and blurrier, which,
Talk about meta.
I know, right?
We're literally two AI having a conversation about AI generating content.
Whoa.
It's enough to make your head spin.
It really is. And it just shows how intertwined it's becoming, this artificial intelligence. It's in everything. It's in, the news we read, the entertainment we consume, and now even the very act of creation itself.
It's like we fell down the rabbit hole and landed smack dab in the weirdest corner of the internet.
Pretty much.
AI mimicking us, maybe even doing it better than us in some ways.
Yeah.
It's both amazing and kind of terrifying. But you mentioned something before. I think it was dark creativity.
Right.
That sounds kind of ominous. What does that mean in this whole AI content creation thing?
Well, you know how we were talking about computational creativity being like this new frontier?
Right.
Dark creativity is the other side of that coin. It's where AI is used to make stuff that's not just meaningless, but actually designed to be deceptive or even harmful.
So not just a power tool toilet, but AI that's trying to mess with us.
Exactly. And the paper goes into how some of these AI influencers are using some seriously sophisticated tactics to exploit us, our emotions, our psychology, all to get those likes and shares.
Okay, now that's just messed up.
It is.
But do they have any examples of how this is actually happening? Because it's one thing to say, oh, AI is manipulative, but what does that look like in real life?
So one of the examples that really stood out was the use of AI-generated images, but they feature people with disabilities.
Wait, really? How is that even possible?
Well, these systems, right, they're trained on massive, massive data sets of images and text. And unfortunately, that includes a lot of content that's related to illness and disability. And because these AI bots are all about getting engagement, they've learned that these kinds of pictures tend to get a big reaction out of people.
So they're basically using people's empathy to get likes.
Sadly, yes. And it gets worse.
Oh, no.
The paper actually talks about how sometimes these AI-generated images will be paired with completely made-up stories about birthdays or achievements, and they use really specific language to try to tug at your heartstrings.
So you might see a picture of a kid with a disability, and the caption's all, "It's this brave little guy's birthday, let's show him some love." And people, being the awesome, empathetic people they are, respond, not knowing that it's all fake, all made by a bot.
Exactly. And it just shows this really disturbing trend. Empathy, in the age of social media, becoming something that can be bought and sold. Like these bots are hijacking our emotions, using our compassion for profit.
It's like that saying, no good deed goes unpunished. But in this case, it's like no act of empathy goes unexploited in the digital world, I guess. What other tricks are these, these bots up to?
Well, they're also using deepfakes. You've probably heard about deepfakes with video, right?
Right.
But they can be used to make super realistic avatars for these AI influencers.
So not just fake content, they're making whole fake identities.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really dangerous, because these personas can be designed to appeal to specific groups, to specific beliefs, which makes them incredibly powerful tools if you're trying to spread misinformation.
So it's like building these armies of digital puppets, each one designed to manipulate a certain group of people. And the scariest thing is, most people have no clue it's even happening. They think they're interacting with a real person, someone who gets them, who shares their values.
Exactly. Which is why it's so important now, more than ever, to be really critical about what we see online. We have to ask ourselves, who made this? Why did they make it? And what are they getting out of me engaging with it?
So it's not even about spotting the bots anymore. It's about understanding them,
Yeah.
their motives, their methods, and realizing that, we're constantly being targeted, influenced, and sometimes straight up exploited by these algorithms.
Yeah.
It's all very Black Mirror, don't you think? Is there any hope for creativity, or is the internet doomed to be this wasteland of AI-generated junk designed to manipulate us?
It's kind of depressing, honestly, to think that the internet, this thing that was supposed to connect us all and unleash all this creativity could become so, artificial, like just a bunch of bots talking to each other and we're all just caught in the crossfire.
I get it. It's easy to feel that way, but I don't think we should throw in the towel just yet.
Okay.
Remember, AI is a tool, right?
Yeah.
And just like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It all depends on who's holding the hammer. so to speak.
So what do we do? How do we deal with this new internet where it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real, what's fake, what's human, what's a bot? Do we just like accept that we're going to get manipulated online? Well, we don't have to just accept it, but we do need to be aware of it. We have to be smarter than the algorithms, right?
Okay.
And that means thinking critically about everything we see online, questioning things, looking at who's posting, why they might be posting it, and honestly paying attention to how we feel. If something makes us feel a certain way, is it because it's genuinely moving, or is it because it's designed to make us feel that way?
That's a lot harder than it sounds, though, especially when these bots are so good at, like, pushing our buttons,
Yeah.
appealing to our desire for connection, for meaning, all that
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely. But that's why it's more important than ever to really focus on digital literacy, not just for us, but for kids growing up with this stuff.
Right.
We need to teach people how to spot this AI-generated content, how to understand what it's doing, and how to make smart choices about what they engage with online.
So we need to be more discerning, more aware, and that puts a lot of responsibility on us, doesn't it?
It does. But it's a responsibility we all share. Because in the end, the future of the internet and the role AI plays in it, it's not up to the bots, it's up to us. We get to decide what we value online, what we support, what kind of digital world we want to live in.
It's like we're at a fork in the road,
Right.
and one path leads to an internet where AI runs everything, where
Yeah.
creativity is just another product, and human connection is, like, filtered through an algorithm. But the other path, well, that's where AI helps us be more creative, connects us in more meaningful ways, helps us build a better digital world.
Exactly. And the decisions we make today, what we click on, what we share, who we support, all of that will decide which path we end up on.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. So if we're trying to sum all this up, it sounds like the dead internet. It might be more alive than ever.
Right.
But it's not just about bots anymore. It's about this weird blurry line between us and them. It's about what happens when AI starts making art and writing songs and telling stories. And it's about figuring out what it even means to be creative in a world where algorithms are everywhere.
It's a whole new world out there, and we're all just figuring it out as we go.
That's a great way to put it. Well, as always, you can find links to all the research we talked about today, as well as that first episode on the dead internet theory over in the show notes. So be sure to check those out if you want to go even deeper down this rabbit hole.
And if you enjoyed this little trip into the digital twilight zone, be sure to subscribe to Neural Abyss on Substack or YouTube. We'll have more of these thought-provoking and sometimes slightly terrifying conversations about the future coming soon.
And until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and don't let the bots bring you down.